So today I'm at Ballarat Indian Motorcycle test riding this bad boy. This is the Scout Bobber 20 and I'm going to take it for a test ride and see what it's like to ride. I'm coming to this with absolutely no expectations. This is my first Indian, so the first Indian I've ever ridden. So I'm curious to see what it's like. Just walking around and looking at it, it looks really nice when you see it in the flesh especially. You see photos and images of these bikes, and then you see them in the flesh, and they certainly look better than you're expecting. Not that I was expecting it to look good, but it just looks even better in the flesh. And I really like the inclusion of this this comfortable looking seat that's a standard feature on this Scout Bobber 20. Originally I thought that was an aftermarket accessory, but no, that's standard. Alright, let's fire it up and get some first impression feel of what it's like to ride a Scout Bobber 20. Now this bike has only done 20 kilometres, so it's about, 13 miles or something like that, so the tyres are still green and greasy. They've still got their little nipples on them, so I'm going to have to be a bit careful, and it's still been running obviously. So the key, interestingly, the key's down here, and looking at the controls, it's pretty basic. You've got your stop, run, start here, horn, indicators, lights there, and that's it. There's I can't see any mode button as such. Just picking it up off the stand. The bike weighs 259 kilograms, and I can feel that. It feels densely packed down low, if that makes sense. The stand flicks up nice and briskly. So just sitting here, sitting on the seat, it does feel a little bit smaller than I was expecting. It looks broad and generous, but it is a little bit smaller. Either that or my rear end is a little larger. Feeling the controls, the front brake lever there's not a lot of travel there actually before it starts to grab. I'll have to watch that. Clutch, I'd like having a larger hand. I suppose I'd like it out a little bit further, but it's something to get used to. And I wouldn't say it's not a light clutch, and I wouldn't say it's a heavy clutch, but it is getting to the heavier side rather than lighter, but it certainly feels manageable. Leg position, these are forward controls. That feels very comfortable actually, and with these mini apes coming up a little higher, that feels for some of my height, I'm 6'1", that feels quite good. It's interesting, I feel like I have a bit of a forward lean, which is good, because sitting upright on a bike like this, especially out on the highway, I think you'd be like a sail in the breeze. So this is the gear side. That feels nice and easy to get to. Brakes, so I'm surprised that they feel really pumped up. So let's start it up. In neutral, run, start. I'll just let it warm up for a tick. Looking at the instruments, that's interesting. It looks like that's 60 miles an hour, but I think that's 60 k's an hour. Well, it has to be because we're in Australia, so 60 kilometres an hour, 100 kilometres an hour is there. So normally when we get bikes that are American made, 60 miles an hour is normally up top, and then 100 k's is normally in that same position. So it's quite interesting the way they've done this. I can see I've got a gear indicator, which is great. There's my RPMs, there's the time, and I haven't got my glasses on, but it looks like it could be fuel range there. It's what is it, kilometres per hour? Just looking at these these lights here. Looks like I've got high beam, low beam, hazard, and then there are our indicator. Okay, so our indicator positions, indications are there. See if that's right. Yeah. Okay, there's a little fuel tank, so it must be a fuel warning light, engine warning light, and a temperature warning light. So, okay. So it's got all the basics. That's all you need. I actually quite like the look of that and the layout. I think that's quite nice. Let's put it into first gear. I was expecting a bit more of a thump than that. That's quite good. All right, let's ease away and see what it's like. Oh yeah, just the throttle is yeah, there's not a lot of resistance there. It's quite light, and it picks up quite easily. So, all right, let's try that. See how we go. Now we'll have to watch that. I went to put my foot down, and the pegs are pretty wide. As I went down, I caught my boot on that edge of that peg. So I have to watch that. Okay, let's go. Well, that pulls away nice and easily, like pretty effortlessly. Didn't have to give it any revs or anything to get it going. So our first bit of tootling around is going to be in town, just getting out to where I want to go. Just going to leave it in second here and see how it pulls. Yeah, no problems. So that was a low down acceleration. Gears are nice and easy to get to. Feels fairly intuitive. It's certainly not. It's not. Doesn't feel like it's an intimidating bike to ride. The mirrors are down here, but they're easy to get to and adjust. Split up and see where I'm going. Check this side. Well, I can see what's coming at least. Yes, it's definitely quite a willing engine, and I can tell that its focus is horsepower in the way it delivers, but it's effortless down low, which is great. My body position is, I feel like I'm reaching a little bit to the bars, but that's okay. I don't mind that, because then I can lean forward, and actually when I lean forward the seat becomes more comfortable. The seat's not uncomfortable as in seat comfort, it's just body position wise. I feel like it has a feeling that the front of the seat lifts up, and I want to roll off the back of the seat a little. It's just a little. I think after a while I feel like I'm unnaturally holding my body just forward a little bit to compensate. Now the rear suspension, we've got about 4 inches, I'll double check that on the front, but the rear suspension travel is only about 2 inches, so I'm curious to see how that translates to bumps and things like that, and how that feels for the rider. Yeah, brakes are right there, low speed balance, you know, I'm just about walking pace or slower, and there's no problems at all. Really nice balance. Didn't have to put my foot down at all. I didn't feel the need to put my foot down. Yeah, if I owned this bike, I can tell straight away that I would need more lumbar support than what this seat's offering. If I had a bike like this, the first thing I'd be doing is trying to find a seat, or at least a backrest that I could put on this bike, and I think it would make it a heap more comfortable. Yeah, I feel, especially when you start to accelerate, that you're really hanging on to the handlebars, and having a backrest would be nice, I think, just to let you completely relax on this seat. And the other thing is, I know that at highway speeds, well, I'm predicting at highway speeds, I'm going to get a fair bit of blast on my chest, and a backrest will make that super comfortable, so you wouldn't even feel the need to put a screen or anything on it, which I wouldn't want to do anyway. I'd keep it as it is. But yeah, I'm quite impressed actually. I just don't want to come across as I'm being negative or anything. I'm just noticing things and thinking out loud, if you like. Oh, that peg, that nearly caught me again. I keep catching, it's so wide, I keep catching my heels. I've got to put my foot down. I'm going to have to train myself to really swing my leg out. So it's a bike I can easily short shift. I don't feel a need to rev it out. The engine's certainly got enough torque just to roll away from the line without having to give it a heap of revs, which is really nice, and something that you naturally expect from a V-twin. But having 100 horsepower, I was worried that it would sacrifice a little bit too much torque to get that 100 horsepower out of this capacity engine, which is 1133 cc's. So it's an 1133cc 60 degree V-twin, and it's water cooled, or liquid cooled as they say nowadays. So I'm sitting here at 60 k's an hour, which is about 37 miles an hour, and I'm in fourth gear doing 2,500 RPM, and it's just tootling along quite nicely. I'm taking this bike from the brand new Indian dealership in Ballarat, which is Indian Motorcycle Ballarat, and I met the guys there yesterday, and they were more than happy for me to take it out for a test ride and do a ride review, which is fantastic. So thanks very much, guys, I really appreciate that. They have 4 demo bikes and I plan to ride them all. So if you would like to see those videos, certainly consider subscribing so you'll get, and turn on notifications so you'll be notified. And yeah, we'll get to see those videos. I'll just take up the 5th gear now. So 5th gear at 60 kilometers an hour, or 37 miles per hour. Not a problem at all. What about 6? Can I push a 6? So now I'm in 6th gear, 60 kilometers an hour, and I'm doing 1,900 RPM. And let's try a little bit of a roll on. Yeah, she's lugging a bit, but it's not complaining. But I can feel I'm working the engine more than it would like to be worked. 5th gear is much better, yeah. So 5th gear, not a problem at all. So I wonder if 6th is more of an overdrive. Going through the gears is nice and easy. Okay, didn't scrape there. I was just curious to see if I was going to touch down. From memory, the lean angle on this is 27 degrees. So actually, yeah, so far so good. The riding position is becoming more comfortable as I'm becoming more accustomed to it. It's been, well, it's only been about 12 months since I sold my Vulcan Vaquero. I was curious to see how the pegs would go in comparison to, I've had footboards on my Vaquero, and yeah, these pegs are very comfortable. The being wide is good, but I've got to remember to just swing my leg out wider when I'm putting my foot down, because I keep catching my boot on the end. So round town manners, yeah, it's very good. I'll give it a big tick. It's very easy to punt around. Clutch is a little heavier than on my NC750X, and I think maybe a little heavier than my Vaquero. The switchgear all falls to hand nicely. Like just hitting the indicator there was intuitive. I didn't have to feel for it or anything. It was just there. So acceleration wise and power wise, you know, even at this tootling around, it's and low revs, there's plenty of pull there. You're not going to be disappointed with the way this bike's moving off the line, that's for sure. So far the suspension's been absolutely fine. I'm noticing that it's a little firmer on the rear end, but yeah, it's not worrying me at all. I've had bikes where, I think it was a 2008 Triumph America, where I bought that bike, and brand new, and riding it home, I had this feeling.
I've made a huge mistake.
The suspension on the back was just terrible. We'll turn off up here. The road gets a little bit bumpier. Yep, turn-in's nice. We've got a 130mm wide tyre in the front. Here we go, some bumpy stuff, so you might hear my voice reflect what I'm feeling. So it turns in quite fine. The tyres look large, but It's certainly just not stopping it from turning in or holding it up as you see on some bikes. Oh, yeah, okay, 2 inches there. I thought, oh, that's not too bad. Then there's that second bump hitting. Oh, yeah, that went straight through my spine. 2 inches is fine if your road's decent. And the thing is, I couldn't see it because of the shadows going across the road. I couldn't see that bump. All right, so that's one spine jarring event. Let's see if we have any more. Oh, no scraping. That's good. Happy with that. So this is a bike that you can just ride nice and easy. You don't have to grab the throttle and give it a good twist to get it going. Everything's effortless, as you would hope a V-twin would be. Just cruisy and effortless, torquey. I'm going up a bit of a steep hill here, not a problem, just pull straight up that. It's hard to tell on this on these GoPros when you're going uphill or downhill, but we're climbing at the moment. We'll get up top. I'm just climbing up Mount Buninyong. This is a dormant or extinct volcano. They say extinct, but I have seen recently that extinct volcanoes can come back to life, and that's the crater just in there. We're just riding around the rim of the crater here. So if it ever comes back to life, this might be a good place to be. Have to be careful because it's a little bit mossy, this road. Combine that with green tyres, could be a bit of a recipe for disaster. Yeah, those little bumps are jarring. I don't know there's a lot you can do to make it more comfortable, because without sacrificing that dropped, slammed look that is so appealing about this bike. So for most of your round time riding, I think it's going to be completely fine. Might be a nice spot to have a bit of a look over the bike. What's it like to put into neutral? Yep, piece of cake. Stand. Yep, feels good. So that exhaust note, it's got a nice little lilt to it. Sounds really good actually. I like that. I think if I owned it, I actually wouldn't touch it. I don't need a lot of noise. There's those front tyres, spoked wheels, front and rear, 16-inch rims, a disc brake. Interestingly, you got I'm used to seeing it on this side, on a single front. On this side, that's 298mm disc. And just have my helmet so I can get some air. And we've got a 298mm disc on the rear as well. And you can see here in Australia they all have to come standard with ABS. So ABS fitted standard front and rear. Now these lights, they don't list them as LED on the website. I was trying to find out if there's any LED lighting at all. They do look LED-ish. Headlights definitely not LED, and I'm not sure about these indicators. Let's see. That's interesting. So, okay, so these tail lights are half and half. So half brake and stop lights, and then half indicator must be. Oh, there you go. It looks LED. I'll have to ask them what the go is there, because it certainly looks LED. So whether it's just the effect of the prism that's on the lens. If you're into looks, she certainly is a looker, and I like the key placement. That's cool. Just where that is there, and this is a really nice design. What they've going on here. I like the fact they haven't put artificial fins. They've kept it as it is. Nice belt drive, good protection, guards on it, stone protection, which is good. Yeah, this is a nice bike. Adjustment's pretty simple on the rear here for adjusting your belt. There's interesting touches on these little louvers on the exhaust pipes are cool. And I think it's got enough. It's a nice mix of chrome and blacked out. I'm noticing that chrome may be starting to make a bit of a comeback. So I think this is a nice balance actually between blacked out and chrome. You've got your blacked out components like your rear shock, 41mm front forks, and then you've got little touches of chrome. So I think it works really well. So the fuel tank is 3.3 US gallons or 12.5 litres. I haven't seen any figures on fuel economy, so I'll see if I can chase it up when I get back to my desk. Now I did say the front pegs, I think I said 27 degrees, so it's actually 29 degrees of lean angle on the bike, and the rake on the front forks is also 29 degrees. Now the overall width of the bike is 39.2 inches at its widest point, which is 995mm or just under a metre. So it'd be interesting to see how that'll go lane splitting, filtering, although I can't really see a problem. It's interesting, the pegs and bars are almost the same width. Alright, well I think that's enough looking at it. Let's continue the ride. You don't have to give it a lot of revs to get it going. You can just ease away, which is great. That's a bit of a hill too, we're going uphill here. I like how I can just tootle around. Third gear, probably 1400 RPM. And it just rolls along. I wonder if it'll stall. There we go. So that's just idling at 20 kilometers an hour, and it still pulls, doesn't want to stall. Yeah, it's a bike you can easily just cruise around, relax on, and then if you want a bit of fun, you've got the 100 horsepower up higher in the rev range where you can give it a squirt. Brakes are good feel. It's 2-piston caliper on the front and a single piston on the rear. So far the suspension isn't a deal breaker, but you do want to watch where you're riding and avoid those potholes. But to be fair, the CB1000R I rode last also had this, wasn't as hard as this, but also had this feel on low speed, small little bumps like this where you pick up everything. When you're travelling at speed you tend to sort of ride over the top of them, just sort of skip over them, but when you're going slow you feel everything. I really like these bars. They put you up in a nice position and actually give you a lot of leverage for just pushing the bike over in turns, which is great. I don't think I'd want them any higher. I think they're perfect as they are right here actually. So I haven't scraped yet. I'm being a bit careful because I don't want to scrape. I don't want to find that limit too quickly. I'd say I'd class that acceleration there as nice. Still haven't scraped. It's good. Yeah, I can feel. So the acceleration around the 3000 RPM is good, but as I start to pick up, get it up higher and higher and higher in the revs, it actually started to grow and become more intense. So it's definitely the power's going to be up higher. Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. So that was a fourth gear pull at around 80 kilometers an hour. Curious to see what's going to be like wind-wise at 100. So seat, yeah, I've been in a little bit actually. It's quite comfortable. There's no parts of it which are sort of digging into me or no harder edges. It's sort of rounded off, which is good. Riding position I'm finding quite comfortable, but I would definitely look at a backrest. I think this backrest for me personally, would be perfect for it. Okay, let's go a bit of a squirt to 100. Oh yeah, yep. So the higher you get up into the rev range, the more oomph it gets. Yeah, nice. And then dropping into 6th, it feels like it's a bit of an overdrive, so everything settles down and you can just cruise along at 100 k's an hour, which is 60 miles an hour. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I am feeling pressure on my hands hanging onto the bars, but again, a backrest for me would fix all that. The breeze is really nice on my chest. It's comfortable. There's certainly no turbulence or anything. It's just a nice, clean, steady airflow. Yeah, bumps. I'm just avoiding bumps, and everything, as I thought, everything's evened out now at 100 kilometres an hour. So those little sharp bumps are all just been skipped over, and it's quite doable. Just try leaning forward into the wind. It becomes even more comfortable. So if you're planning to get on it and go a bit, you know, that position leaning forward is quite comfortable. So now I didn't feel one harsh bump along that 100 kilometre an hour section. There's no way I could say this bike is underpowered. Not at all. Shifts nicely through the gearbox. Try this bend here. No scraping. It's good. So I think ground clearance is certainly adequate. It's not a problem at all. And you'd really have to be pushing it to scrape. Well, I wouldn't say that. You'd have to be pushing it a bit to scrape, but you can ride at quite an enjoyable pace without scraping the pegs. I like having the 60 kilometres an hour dead straight up. I think that's quite clever what they've done there. So I suppose the question now remains, would I buy this bike? And yeah, I would. Yep, for sure. But there's nothing on here that that would stop me from buying it. The rear suspension, you know, I could live with what, even with this 2 inches of travel. I only had one bump that was spine jarring. The rest was quite okay. Now whether over hours and hours, you know, it might wear you down a little bit, but I'm sure there'd be an aftermarket solution that would give you a little bit more travel, but it would be at the expense of some rear ride height, so you have to keep that in mind. If you want to keep the look, you're stuck with the 2-inch suspension. If you want a little bit more, then it'll jack the back up a little bit. Yeah. Yep. Try this third gear. No scraping. Jeez, it's good. I'm already, in my short time I've had with the bike, feeling more and more comfortable with it. A day of riding here certainly would be very at home, and then it's a case of exploring its true potential, which I feel it has a lot. There's a lot in reserve power wise, I know that for sure, and cornering clearance, a lean angle, is I keep pushing it a little bit more and a little bit more, and I haven't scraped yet, so that's really good. I like how I can just tootle along. Here I'm at 50 k's an hour, 50 kilometres an hour, and it's pleasant to ride. You know, some bikes you need to be going fast all the time to find them enjoyable. Well, that's what I like about cruisers. You can just cruise along, and with their V twin engines, they just tootle along effortlessly. and the balance is really good. Just coming up to the stop here, the bike's very well balanced. I think because the weight's so low, everything's carried so low, it's just really good. And with slow speed manoeuvring, not a problem. Gear changes are impressing me. Clutch is a little heavier than what I'm used to, but I think if you did a lot of in-city riding, that might start to get a little heavy. But you know, it's not. It's certainly not a deal breaker, that's for sure. Okay, I'm coming to the end of my ride now. So, who is this bike for? Well, it's for a wide range of people, really. I think I wouldn't class it, certainly not a beginner's bike, unless you're already an experienced rider. The performance might catch a newbie out, but having said that, it's a very easy bike to ride. I'm finding it quite comfortable and natural, but then again, you have to weigh that up to your own personal riding experience. I've been riding road bikes for 34 years, so I've ridden a lot of bikes, so it feels easy and comfortable and natural to me. But if you're a beginner, it might feel a little bit overwhelming. The performance is more than enough. You're not going to explore this bike's full potential in the first day of ownership, let me assure you. I think that'll take a few weeks to sort of really get to learn what it's capable of, and that's a great thing, because I think it's a bike you won't tire of very quickly. So I think Indian have done a great job of this bike, and for my first ever Indian ride, I'm very impressed. I'm also very impressed with the ergonomics. I feel as a taller rider, 6'1", very comfortable on the bike. My thighs are parallel to the ground. It feels very natural and relaxed. There's a bit of a reach to the bars, so I don't feel cramped there at all. I can lean forward if I want to and lean into the wind. The only negative I can say is that I would like more lumbar support from the seat to cope with the acceleration potential this bike has. And yeah, I'd give this Scout Bobber 20 a big thumbs up, and I could own this bike quite easily. No problems at all. So with all that said, thanks heaps for watching, everybody. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end here. If you haven't subscribed, I'm going to be riding more Indian motorcycles, so watch out for those. But make sure you turn on the notification bell and be notified when those videos come up. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you all again in the next video. Bye for now.